Whenever I was incarcerated at High Desert State Prison in Susanville, California, I had an acquaintance named J.D. That's J.D. as in John Doe. I'm using an alias with J.D. because this was back in the PMU at High Desert. You see, High Desert is a seriously active pen. It's where they send guys who are involved in gang politics, who are looking to go to war for their gang and hurt each other. As such, whenever somebody rolls up, whenever they leave the gang and want to debrief, talk to the cops, anything like that, their life is in danger. If there was any way to do it, the members of their gang would frankly execute them rather than risk that their secrets be spilt, at least some of the time. As a result, in High Desert, the administration set up the PMU, that's Placement Management Unit. This was where they sent you if you were going to be going to a PC yard, an SNY yard, someplace where they sent rats and thieves and child molesters, the guys that couldn't get along in regular prison. As a result, you had a wide variety of people ending up here. A lot of guys roll up out of gangs for a lot of reasons. JD was an interesting case. As he explained it to me, he still had good standing in his gang. He just hadn't liked the environment where he was. He'd been on a 180 yard and it was seriously militant. He'd contacted his people that he knew and said, hey, look, I don't like being here. He had good standing in his gang, or at least this is the story he told. He'd dealt drugs for a long time. He'd made a lot of money for his people. They told him they didn't care where he did his time. Go ahead, tap. Just don't give any information. Do your time, get out, nobody cares. This is the story he told me, and he could have been lying. Frankly, I didn't care. It was an interesting story at the very least. You see, JD, he was a businessman in a real sense of the word. I suspect he may have been a sociopath. I spoke to him on one occasion about why he was a criminal, because he was so well put together, smart, clever, he saw the angles, he was a great judge of character. You could see him sizing you up when you talked to him. He explained to me that some guys were addicted to drugs. Some guys were addicted to the gang. They liked being part of that family. Some guys were addicted to the lifestyle, the fast money and fast cars. He said he liked the power. He was very clear about what he liked. He said, I like the guns. I like the people do what I tell them. I like that I have enough money that I can have anything I want and I can take what I want from other people. He was very clear about it. He seemed like a cold man. I described him as an acquaintance rather than a friend, and I'm not sure that JD had friends. If I needed to borrow $100 from him, I sincerely believe he could have put cash in my hand or a green dot on my books or however he did business. He would have had no problem lending me some money. I'm pretty confident that if I'd come to him a day or two later and told him, hey, JD, about that money I owe you, man, there's a problem, he would have laughed. He would have explained to me that whatever the problem was, it wasn't that he wasn't getting paid. The problem was my problem. He seemed like that type of guy. One evening, back in the PMU, I'd went to bed a little early. My cellie and I were in the cell, my cellie Jimmy. It was about 7:30, maybe 8 p.m. The day room was still out, and JD had come up to the cell to ask me a question. I was asleep. As he had rounded the corner and knocked on the door, I had woke up, and at that very same moment, there was an ungodly crash. Anyone who's heard a window break whenever they were in the room when the window broke, or perhaps a television being picked up, one of those old CRT TVs, and hucked onto the ground hard so that the pieces of glass shattered everywhere, that type of sound in a small concrete room. I leapt up out of my bed. I'd been asleep, and I tossed the sheet up, and as I was coming towards the ground, trying to figure out what that crazy sound was, I looked at JD, and he looked at me, and it was the strangest moment because he looked embarrassed, like he'd done something that was impolite. He turned around quick and started walking away, and this is as I'm hitting the ground, my sheet still kind of half around me, and I see that Jimmy, my cellie, had picked up his TV and thrown it on the ground at the very moment that JD had walked up and knocked on the window. His hands were wrapped. He had one pair of old tore-up gloves, and then another pair of even more tore up gloves, and then a sheet which he had stripped down and wrapped around his hand on both sides. There are a couple of reasons you might do this in prison. One is if you're going to get into a fight. You put on the gloves and you wrap them so that whenever you go and fight, you don't hurt your knuckles. If you've ever been in a fight, it's real easy to break a knuckle. You get a boxer's break, it's called, and you're never the same after that. You're always watching those knuckles. Additionally, if the administration figures out there was a fight, they're going to look who has chewed up knuckles, because if you hit somebody real hard in the head, well, you're going to hurt your hand a little, at least a little. And so medical comes around after a fight and looks and sees if anybody has chewed up hands, and those are the guys that are the suspects. Another reason you might wrap your hands is if you're going to be exercising. You're going to be doing some boxing, perhaps, hitting the wall, and you don't want to get your hands messed up. The final reason is if you have an improvised weapon. You have something, a piece, maybe a big chunk of glass off an old school CRTV that you threw on the ground, and you're going to book somebody, you're going to kill them. And you're in there, and you're killing them. Well, you're going to cut your hands up real bad. Glass, metal, whatever it is, you don't have a good tsuba like you do on a sword. You don't have a cross guard. So you're going to end up cutting your hand real bad. Jimmy didn't want to do that when he killed me. And I strongly suspect that's what was going to happen if JD hadn't come by and knocked on that window. Because the window was knocked on, and just as I was waking up, I heard that crash and leapt to the ground, threw up my sheet. JD turned around, and I swear it stands out as this most incongruously semi-comical, semi-terrifying moment. He began whistling as he walked away from my cell. He was embarrassed. He stuck his nose in somebody else's business. He'd come up on the door right whenever I was about to get hit, and had knocked on the door without thinking about it because he had a question to ask me. He walked off, and I'm left in this situation where Jimmy is coming towards me, hands wrapped, piece of glass in hand, a nice hefty piece of glass. It was about the size of his fist and sharp, wicked edge. My sheet is between us just a little bit, and I kind of flip it up and step forward, and I manage to get it wrapped around the blade just a little bit. He has to step back, and I'm trying to isolate because I just have this half second to try to figure out what the heck is going on. I went to sleep. Jimmy and I were all right. I did not have a problem with this dude whenever I went to sleep in the room with him. I woke up to what appears to have been him plotting my death. I mean, he was coming at me quick. But he had to step back. That sheet was between us now, and I was trying to isolate that knife. Maybe I get it away from him. He took 2 steps back, and I had to take a step back also, and suddenly the situation was reframed. I can still hear JD whistling as he goes down the stairs. Sounds like Bugs Bunny whenever he's walking away from Elmer Fudd as Elmer Fudd realizes the stick of dynamite is lit. It's doo-doo-doo, doo-doo-doo. I'm looking at JD, and JD's looking at me, and I can see him reassessing the situation. I guess he'd been planning on getting me before I woke up. And I'm just trying to figure out some way where we can both walk out of this okay. I'm talking to him, JD, what's going on, man? You got to talk to me. And he's not responding. He's doing the math on how to hurt me. There's only one thing you can do. You got to do the math on how to hurt the guy back. Because, and I don't know any other way to express that, if I was going to die in that cell that day, we were both going to bleed. I was not just going to lie down and let the dude take me out. I realized the only option I have is put that sheet between us, maybe grab a towel off the side of the locker so that I can try and get something between that sharp edge and my skin, and rush him. I got weight on Jimmy. I mean, he's definitely got the cardio on me. I've seen this dude do a couple hundred burpees, no problem, and I can't do 20 without running out of wind. On the other hand, if I come in hard, maybe he's going to get in a slice or two, but he probably won't kill me, and once I have him against that wall, it's a fair fight. And I lean back to come in, and he adjusts his position just a little bit. It's the strangest thing, but he appears to be trying to stop me from getting to the edge of my bed. I'm down on the ground, and whenever you're in a little cell, whenever you're fighting, there's a lot of body language. You're looking for position. You're trying to figure out where to go. And he seems more concerned about preventing me from getting back to my bed than he does about hurting me or stopping me from hurting him. It reframes the situation. I'm trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And so I give up, and I don't mean a lot of space, a couple of inches. I change my angle a little bit. I step back towards the table. I'm giving up a tactical advantage, but I need to see what's going on in Jimmy's head, because this dude is afraid not of me coming at him, and he doesn't seem to want to hurt me. He's worried about my bed, and sure enough, as I step a little back towards the table, he adjusts to be more between me and my bed. And so I go further back onto the table in the corner of the cell. I ask him, Jimmy, what's going on, man? His response was so incongruous, it reframed the entire scenario to me. He looked at me and said, I know you've got it. Where is it? And he's actively afraid. I see that the fear. And I don't mean afraid like he's not about to take my life from me. I mean afraid like that's why he's going to take my life from me. Jimmy, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Listen, I'm backing off a little bit. You got to back off. I don't want this. And he does. He backs off and he asks me again. He says, I know they gave it to you. Where is it? Jimmy, what are you talking about, man? And this takes a minute for us to, because he's up at 10. He's looking for the opening to come in and stick me. But we get a couple of words back and forth, and I see him pull himself down to like 9 or 8. Because what he's afraid of is me going for my bed. And he explains the reason why is because he believes I have a knife, a nice wicked piece, that he describes it to me. I guess he thinks he saw it, but I know he didn't because it doesn't exist. And he thinks there's a knife up there in my bed that one of my friends gave me to get him. And so he's just acting in self-defense. He had to get me first. Jimmy's a little bit of a J-Cat. He's a little crazy. And so this is some kind of paranoid delusion. And I'm trying to reframe it in this, but the dude is still armed. The dude still has 2 pairs of gloves on and a sharp piece of glass in his hand. The fact that he's not in his right mind is not the greatest comfort to me, in spite of the fact it does reframe the situation. I ask him, Jimmy, man, you got to just bring it down a little. Listen, I'll back off from my bed. I see that's what you're worried about. Just take the whole mattress, pull it off the bed, toss it there behind you, and that way I can't get to whatever it is you think I have. All right, I'll back off of this, man. I don't want this. And I swear I see it click. If you've ever looked at somebody who was looking for a way out, that trapped wild animal look, the darting eyes and the trying to figure out what to do next, suddenly he sees an angle. He relaxes just a little and brings himself down to like an 8.5 out of 10 and pulls my mattress away from me where there's no way I can get to this imaginary knife that he's seen, that he's described, a long, sharp piece of thin steel. It's not in the bed, sure enough. And he is down just a little bit more, and we start talking. I don't mean like we have a nice, relaxed conversation. I mean, I'm all the way back against my edge of the cell, and he's against his, and he's still armed. But we're talking. He explains, and I need to preface this by explaining that this is the most ridiculous, J-Cat, crazy perception of how prison politics work you've ever heard. But it's what's going on in his head. He's a Norteño. The reason he left the yard he was on a serious 180 yard, him and his cellie got into a cell fight. Well, you're not allowed to get into a cell fight on a 180 yard. You're not allowed to get into a cell fight if you're an active gang member. His cellie and he lied about it. He got the idea that his friends didn't believe the lie and that he was going to get hit, that he was going to get made an example of. This is already a pretty exaggerated view of what's likely to happen for a cell fight. He thinks his life is in danger because he and his cellie got into a small fight in the cell on a 180 yard. More likely, he's going to get some small discipline. He's going to get checked. But he's not rational. And so he rolls up. He goes back to the PMU, explains to the cops there's a hit on him and he's got to get out of there. The cellie before me, it was a similar situation. He got an idea in his head this guy was coming for him, and they were fighting back and forth again and again. Finally, I ended up celled up with him. And he has in his head the idea that because my name is still pretty good, that I still have friends that are active, that somehow there's a plan to get a piece back to me. And he hasn't seen a piece, now he admits. It's just he knows what it looks like. And that once I have the piece, I'm going to book him, even though he's a Norteño and I'm white, I'm going to kill him. And that will clean up the mess on my yard so that I can go back and be an active gang member again. Because I killed a PC guy, now my mess isn't a problem anymore. It's absurd. There is no rhyme or reason to his delusion. And as we talk a little bit more, he describes a vision that he'd had a couple days before of a bunch of little people, 3, maybe 4 feet tall, running back and forth in the day room outside of the cell. At first, he'd thought that they were the guys from the Wizard of Oz, the Lollipop Guild. But then he'd realized that they were wearing ninja outfits, and that's whenever he knew they were coming for him. And he apologizes, says, man, I'm sorry for getting you caught up in all that. And now he's calmed down just a little bit. And I ask him, I go, hey, Jimmy, listen, man, can you quit waving that piece at me? I'm scared, man. You're waving a piece at me. And it was like the entire situation suddenly clicked with him. I saw lucidity return to his eyes. He looked around and went, I'm tripping, aren't I, man? I told him, Jimmy, you are seriously tripping. I swear to you, I have no intent to harm you. Not tonight, not ever. And I woke up, and you got that piece of glass, and I'm concerned you're coming for me, man. I'm still back here. Let's de-escalate a little. He starts to calm down. He actually sets the piece of glass down. And then at that moment, I guess that his paranoia, his fear kicks in. He realizes that I'm talking him down. I tricked him into putting down his weapon. Snatches it back up, takes a bladed stance towards me. Tells me, where is it? I tell him, Jimmy, man, I'm telling you, there's nothing in this cell. I think he's coming. I'm ready. I'm going to say it again. If I had to die, we were both going to bleed. Where is it? Tell him, listen, Jimmy, let's trade, all right? I'll get up onto my rack, and you can come over to this side of the cell, and I'll stand over there in the corner with that stuff you just looked through. You know there's no knife. And I'll stand over in that corner with that stuff you just looked through. You know there's no knife where you're standing. So if I stand there, and you know it's not on me, I'm in my boxers, I was asleep, I'm as close to naked as you get without, being naked. Then you can look around the cell. And you can see there's nothing here. I can't tell you where it is because there's nothing in the cell. The logic gets through, at least, that if I'm standing where he knows there isn't a knife, I can't snatch a knife and run at him. So we spend a minute or two kind of negotiating how to switch spots in the cell without me grabbing the imaginary knife that he thinks is hidden somewhere, or him booking me whenever I try and get past him, because these are little cells. I climb up onto the bed, he moves to the side, and we very carefully switch spots. He starts searching through all my stuff. This is rude, but frankly, it's the least of my concerns. I'm just glad I'm not dying or getting stabbed. This is scary. It's about this time that they recall the day room, meaning that all the inmates that are out in the day room, like JD, got to go back to their cells. The cop is going to walk around in about 5 minutes. This is Jimmy's last chance. If he's worried that I'm going to start yelling, help, help, and he wants to get me, well, this is his time to do it, is whenever they're recalling the day room, because I'm going to have a chance to go help somebody help me whenever the cop comes past. That's not his primary concern, and it's very clear that he's not trying to set up an ambush. He really is concerned that I'm going to hurt him. He's concerned for his own safety. For as long as the conversation, and we are talking now as he's going through my stuff, is framed in the context of, Jimmy, just keep looking for the knife. I swear it's not in here. He's semi-rational. The cop walks past, counts us. Jimmy takes his hands and puts them in his lap like this, and the cop doesn't even notice. And I, of course, don't go, help, help. Even if I had wanted the cop to open up the tray slot and start pepper spraying in, I don't think that they could have helped me before Jimmy could have ended my life if that was his intent. Finally, Jimmy admits, he goes, I can't find it. You got it in you. You got it hooped. No, I don't have a piece hooped, Jimmy. You're being insane, man. And it's back to the bladed stance. It's back to this confrontation because he's figured it out. And now he tells me, and it's clear in his eyes, he's figured it out. He says, oh, you're waiting for me to go to sleep. That's what's going on. And we're back up to 10. The lights out in the day room are out. It's just him and me. It's going to be 6, 7, 8 hours before we have any other human contact. And I'm just trying to figure out any way to make it through the night because this dude is all the way back up to full-on schizophrenic break. And it clicks. I got an idea. Because he does seem rational for as long as I'm not arguing with him about what he thinks is true. I'm Jimmy. How about I take some coffee? I'll drink a shot or two. I'll sit down on the crapper right there. If I have a piece hooped, we'll both know about it. I just won't flush, you know? He thinks about it for a minute. He looks at me and goes, you would do that? Yes. If my options are stabbed by a crazy person or using the restroom, it's a pretty easy choice. And it's like it hadn't occurred to him that I might cooperate with this because he literally sets the knife down, sits back to the side, and we're talking like things are normal. He asks if we can watch my TV, because he broke his, while we wait for me to be able to use the restroom because adrenaline is a beast. I'm not capable of doing anything right now but just sitting and trying to bring him down, get some zen in Jimmy's brain so that he doesn't think I'm trying to hurt him. I never do get around to utilizing the facilities. It's 15, maybe 20 minutes later. And I see the lucidity return again. Jimmy looks at me and goes, hey, Aaron, I'm tripping, aren't I? And I tell him, listen, Jimmy, man, you asked this a couple of minutes ago when I told you yes and you brought yourself down a little. I need you to look at this, all right? I was asleep. And things were cool between us, right? Like whenever I went to sleep, you and I were all right. He goes, oh, yeah, that was before I figured out what was going on. We were good then. I tell Jimmy, we went to sleep and it was like that. And now I'm over here sitting on the crapper and I'm afraid for my life. You got to bring yourself down. And he does. Before, he'd been pumping himself up. At one point, he was stabbing that wall with a piece of glass, trying to get himself hyped. Now he's relaxed. And he goes, what do I got to do, man? What do I do to get this calmed down? I tell him, listen, man, Jimmy, you're having some kind of mental illness problem. I'm not even taking this personally. I don't feel like you came at me. I feel like you got something going on wrong in your head. And he kind of, yeah. I tell him, Jimmy, you got to get at that door and start hollering man down. You got to yell, I need some psychiatric help. You guys got to get me to the part of the prison you send people that are hallucinating. You told me you saw ninjas running around the day room the other day. You understand they weren't really there, right? And he waffles a little bit about whether or not they're really there. He's not ready to concede they're not real, but he's ready to concede that he may need psychiatric help. Tell him, Jimmy, man, just get on that door. Start yelling, I need a doctor. They'll come, they'll get you out of here. He realizes that that's like snitching, he says. I'm not going to tell on myself. Tell him, all right, man, here, I'll yell. You just lie down right there, I'll yell at the door, hey, my cellie needs help. He negotiates for he'll do that, but only if I pretend he just fell out. He had an aneurysm or something and he's lying on the ground unconscious. I don't know what happened. I'm not negotiating at this point. I'm just happy with anything that I can yell out that door that gets me out of that cell. I start hollering, man down! Man down! 111! That's what you do if you need medical attention. You might think you could just holler, hey, excuse me, officer, can somebody help? They can hear you. But if you don't yell at the top of your lungs, they might take longer to respond. They'll think it's not an emergency. Heck, they might think you're just making up a complaint. It's the done thing. Everybody yells at the top of their lung, kicks the door. It's a long wait. 5 minutes, 10 minutes of my yelling, hey, this guy needs help, help. Finally, the officer in the building comes strolling up. He's annoyed. Yeah, what's up? Hey, my cellie fell out, man. He's down there on the ground. I don't know what's wrong with him. He needs help. Officer looks at him and says, he looks all right. Well, tell him to get up. Hey, Jimmy, get up, man. Nothing. I'm telling you, he's out, man. Well, tell him to get up. Jimmy, get up. The officer obviously doesn't want to deal with it for whatever reason. Maybe he was taking a nap. Maybe he has something else he wants to do. He doesn't want to press the button that gets the doctors to come running to assist an inmate. He starts to turn around. I tell him, man, my cellie needs help. He says, he looks all right. Kick him. I'm not going to kick him. I said, fine, man, what do you want? Tell him, well, get the doctor up here. I don't know what's wrong with him. Fine. So he hits the button. Credit to the medical staff, whereas this guy took 5 minutes and came strolling out. Once the buttons hit, it's not 2 minutes later and they come running in. Not one person, 10, 15, 20 people. Doctors, guards, everybody's in a hurry to get to the emergency. What's going on? Well, he's out. I don't know what to do. I need help. Tomorrow, yeah, well, here, turn around, put on handcuffs. What they do is they have a little slot in the door. You turn 180 degrees so that your back is to the door, and you take your hands and you put them like this out behind the door. They put handcuffs on you and hold them so that now your hands are outside of the door, even though you were still inside of the cell. They then open the door very quickly, and 2 men will grab you and yank you out of the cell. The reason they do it like this is because my cellie is there unrestrained on the ground. For all they know, he has a knife, which actually he does. Or hell, he has a 9mm pistol and a grenade. I know it's absurd, but these are security procedures. They have somebody unsecured on the ground. The guy coming out has to come out fast and hard. And so I kind of fall and go flying off to the side, and they take me and lock me in a shower. Officer asks me what's going on. I break it down. Tell him, listen, guy's not actually unconscious. He's just pretending because he's having a mental break. He's not going to hurt anybody. He's not violent. But he is dangerous. He's got a little knife in there, and you need to make him put on handcuffs before you let him out. This is straight dry snitching. This is against the convict code by every measure of what the convict code is for. On the other hand, Jimmy is not rational. And the idea that they should go in there whenever he has a knife hidden and not know about it, this is absurd. It's a danger to them and it's a danger to him. So they tell him, hey, look, dude, your cellie broke it down. We know what's going on. We know there's a piece in there. We know you're pretending. So we're going to give you like 2 minutes, and then we're going to change the nature of this conversation. Instead of asking you, hey, are you okay, sir? We're going to go get the cell extraction team, and we're going to pepper spray you, and we're going to open up this door and beat the crap out of you and drag you out of here. Sir, are you okay? Do you want to come out of the cell? And they phrase it in this way, and he's slowly kind of, okay, fine, maybe I'll come out. And he's obviously not rational. Now he's afraid they're going to kill him whenever they comes out of the cell. One of the officers takes point. Apparently he has some understanding of the situation, perhaps some psychiatric training, and he negotiates with him, says, listen, nobody wants to hurt you. There's a bunch of people here. Even if one of us wanted to hurt you, we couldn't because we'd all protect you, right? Your friends are in these cells. They can all hear what's going on. But we can't leave. We hear that you're hoping we're just going to walk away and pretend this didn't happen, but you need to go see a doctor. You need to get on handcuffs and come out of that cell, sir, right now. And he does. He listens to reason. Jimmy comes out of the cell, and they put me back in. I assumed this was the end of it. Jimmy's going for some kind of psychiatric hold. I'm just trying to bring that adrenaline down. It's about 3 hours later. Jimmy comes back to the cell, along with the officer who didn't want to take him out in the first place. Don't remember the guy's name, but he was a taller guy, and boy, he had an attitude about the whole experience. So, all right, Channel, cuff up. We're bringing your cellie back in. No kidding. You're bringing my cellie back in? You know he's not right. What are you guys thinking? He says, man, that ain't my job. Cuff up. But bringing your cellie back in. I tell him, you're not even going to ask me. I don't sign any paperwork. There's nothing like this, man. Listen, I like Jimmy. He's a good dude. But I don't think he's rational. Did he see a psychiatrist tonight at all? I mean, what did you guys do? It's only been 3 hours. So whenever I realized Jimmy's actually, right there, he can hear me talking to the officer. I guess they'd left him up against the wall. And that's all right. It's not like I spoke ill of him. But I tell the officer, man, you got to pull me out of here. I got to talk to somebody about this. I want to talk to a sergeant about what the heck is going on. Officer gives a big eye roll and a sigh and goes, fine, Channel, all right. Handcuffs on me, and they put Jimmy back in the cell. I go down and talk to a sergeant. I just got one question for him. I tell him, man, did you guys sign off on him for real? Did he go and see a psychiatrist or something like that? The officer goes, listen, Channel, I don't know what to tell you. We're putting him back in your cell. Beyond that, not my problem. I tell him, okay, but do I have any other options? Is there some place I can go? Because dude was waving a knife at me just a couple hours ago. He said, yeah, you can go to the hole. I'll write you up for refusing to house. We'll send you to the hole, and then you can beat the write-up or not. I don't even care. But these are your choices, man. I kind of break it down. I go, all right, fine. If you say he's safe to live with, I'm going back up there. No problem. He takes the advantage. He goes, I did not tell you he's safe to live with. I told you you can go to the hole or you can live with him. Don't put words in my mouth. Oh, I break it down. So I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm ready to go back to my house now. I'm sorry for being a problem. Well, I go back into that house ready for Jimmy to come at me a second time. Might be he wants round two. But he's calm. He's rational. There's no crazy in this man's eyes anymore. He shakes my hand. He apologizes. And then he asks me, man, you straight told on me. I tell him, yeah, Jimmy, I did. I'm sorry about it, brother, but you were not right in your head. You weren't breaking the law. I realize that, like, you're worried you're going to get written up for the things you did. You weren't in your right head. You need psychiatric help. Whenever you reach the point that you're a danger to yourself and the people around you, nobody is going to accommodate your crazy and hide it. He listens. He hears it. Shake hands again. All right. No harm, no foul. He's rational. Tell him, Jimmy, we got to work out some way that you and I can cohabitate, because I don't know what went on in your head tonight, but I can't wake up and haven't you wrapped your hands, have you made a peace. What is going on, man? And he explains that he's been afraid for weeks, that he knew I was coming for him, and he knew there was a peace in the cell. And now that he knows there isn't one, he actually feels a lot better. And he thinks he can be rational and just cohabitate with me until I get out of the PMU, which it's just going to be another 2 or 3 weeks. I just got to maintain. They already told me they're sending me to Sat F. So I shake his hand and I tell him, I tell you what, Jimmy, every time I come in the cell from now on, you can look through my folders, my paperwork, my soups. I don't give a crap, man. You really get uncomfortable? You tell me. We'll tear this cell apart. Hell, I'll sit down and use the facilities. I don't care, man. But you need to swear. Nothing like this, because next time I'm telling you, and I mean it with all the kindness I have, next time I just have to blitz you, because I should have done that in the first place. It was my best odds for survival. And maybe we both would have ended up hurt. I don't know, but I can't wake up to that kind of thing happening. He acted like he heard me, but I'm not sure he did. I swear I still hear that TV crashing so loud. Whenever I'm asleep, sometimes you snap up and start moving, and then you realize you're not in a concrete cell anymore. The interesting thing about this entire experience back in the PMU, the thing that I walked away with, was the fact that Jimmy was afraid. That's why he was going to hurt me, kill me. Fear. And then whenever I came down off that rack and I saw him coming at me, oh, I was afraid too, and that's why I was going to hurt him, maybe kill him. I didn't want to. I don't want to hurt anybody. I don't know if any of us do, but it's an easy choice whenever it's the other guy or you. Fear. And I looked at Jimmy's fear through my own lens, through my fear, and it was going to escalate. And then there was that little moment where I saw that he was adjusting his stance. He wasn't afraid I was going to hurt him, that I was going to defend myself. He was afraid I was going for a peace. From there, we negotiated down. So just remember, if you have the opportunity, whenever you are afraid, whenever things are going wrong, that if you can rephrase the question, if there's any other way besides violence and besides anger and crime, well, that should be plan A. But don't hesitate, because the most important thing in that type of situation, and the thing that I walked away remembering, is that the most important thing is to walk away. Thank you so much for listening today.